Good evening. I'd like to call to order the regular virtual city council meeting of the city of Lakewood, Colorado on November 23rd, 2020 at 7 p.m. Will the clerk please call roll?
Paul?
Here.
Abel?
Here.
Vincent?
Here.
Gutwein?
Here.
Vita?
Here.
Skilling?
Here.
Springsteen?
Here.
Franks?
Here.
Johnson?
I'm here.
LeBrewer?
Here.
Harrison?
Here.
You have a quorum.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. I appreciate that. I'd like to welcome everybody who's tuning in tonight, or if you'll be joining us at a later date. Two kind of clerical items, actually three. So there'll be a couple opportunities for public comment this evening, and that dial-in number, which you should also see on the screen, is 1-253-215-8782 with the webinar ID of 984-1615-7694. Once you dial in the webinar ID, please press pound. You'll then press *9 to request to speak. And then once you've been called on, *6 will unmute, and we'll go through our normal protocol for 3 minutes based upon that. Item 13, for those folks who may be tuning in, that's Resolution 2020-45, authorizing allocations for 533 Van Gordon Street. There will be a motion to hold that over, I think, until mid-December, based upon a couple things that you have probably seen from the planning director, Travis Parker, in a memo that went out late last week. So again, item 13 will be a motion to extend or lay over. And then we will again move up the emergency declaration from under general business, which is on item 9, and do that after item 5, which is city manager's executive report. So with that, if you'd please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance, and we'll also have a moment of silent prayer. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, thank you very much. So next up, we have general public comment. This is the point in the meeting where the public is invited to address the city council on items that did not appear on the agenda. All comments should be directed to the city council. I ask that all persons calling in observe the same decorum of a city council meeting held in person in chambers. There'll be other opportunities to speak on the resolution under consent agenda, as well as a block of other resolutions and a second reading ordinance. So again, if you dial in 1-253-215-8782, webinar 984-1615-7694, press pound, *9 to request to speak, and then *6 to unmute. You'll have 3 minutes, and I will let you know when you have about 30 seconds left. And if you give us your name and address or name and ward, we will get you started.
And Mayor, you are not showing video, just in case you're not aware.
Thank you, Councilor Franks. I figured I'd save you all that luxury, but I will now turn my video on. All right, we have a couple of hands up to speak. It looks like, Madam Clerk, I'll just let you call on the last four.
A call ending in 3379.
All right, caller 3379, if you press unmute, and we will get your 3 minutes going.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, good evening.
Hi, my name is Katie Gill, and I'm actually calling from Morrison, Colorado. I first want to thank you all for your service. It's a very difficult time, and your work is often thankless. So even outside of Lakewood, I appreciate it. I'm calling about the Bear Creek reallocation proposal. As you know, the 3-year feasibility study was temporarily suspended about a year ago, and the Army Corps of Engineers has now completed their preliminary risk assessment. So they decided they can move forward with this feasibility study, and that process is anticipated to start in February. And now that that decision has been made, the decision to proceed, I wanted to respond to some information presented at your June 15th water study session, which I found extremely interesting. Lauren Riss gave a nice overview of the project. She's from the Colorado Water Conservation Board, and she suggested in her presentation that it would be very similar to the Chatfield project. And I just wanted to address that because while there are some similarities, most notably that both projects propose a 20,000 acre-foot expansion of storage, Chatfield Park and Reservoir are so much bigger than Bear Creek Lake Park and Reservoir. The Chatfield Park is about 3 times the size of Bear Creek Lake Park, and the impact of a 20,000 acre-foot increase at Chatfield is much less devastating than what would happen here. They haven't filled that Chatfield Reservoir to that new capacity yet. They anticipate it would involve a 39% increase in the surface area of the reservoir, and by comparison, the surface area of the Bear Creek Lake would increase by 450%. So to imagine what that would look like, you can recall the floods of 2013 and 2015, and this proposed volume would be even higher than that. You all have an informative, articulate memo dated May 9th of 2017 by Directors Newland and Hutchinson, which describes these potential impacts and includes some maps of the flood imprints. I just wanted to add that there's another significant difference between Chatfield's expansion and what could happen in Bear Creek, which is that about a mile of Bear Creek and about a half a mile of Turkey Creek would be inundated. And these are critical riparian zones, and they're really the heart and lungs of the park. So I just hope that the council will encourage compromise in this process moving forward. I think we probably have to be part of the solution for statewide storage increases, but what is being asked of our park, I think, is just too much. And thank you for your time.
Great, thank you very much. Just under 3 minutes too, thank you. All right, Madam Clerk, next.
Call ending in 7210.
Caller 7210, if you go ahead and press *6, you should be ready to go.
Yes, thank you. My name is Sean Laracy. I am the owner of Dickey's Barbecue Pit on Wadsworth and Colfax. I just wanted to speak a couple of notes on the impact of our second shutdown for our restaurant, and kind of speak on behalf of all restaurants as best I can. We believe that every dollar you invest locally comes back to you many times over, and we've done a lot to invest in our community. We've provided some really great jobs, and we've also done a lot of donations, and we want to and we do feel that it's time for the community to probably invest in us and other small businesses. This first shutdown in March was terrifying, but it was also less scary than the one now. We knew federal government support was coming. We knew employees had resources for unemployment insurance if they were to need it. And we also thought it was going to last a couple of weeks. This current shutdown that we're in that just started 3 days ago is completely different. We know no federal government support is going to come. We know unemployment benefits are up, and we know it's going to last substantially longer. We do support the shutdown to slow the spread, but we don't support asking small businesses to pay for the cost of this shutdown. Jefferson County shut our dining room down and didn't provide a plan on how to pay it. My wife and I have not received any money from this business all year because our priority is protecting our employees' jobs. None of our employees have lost any hours due to this pandemic. We're paying for this out of our own pocket, and we're lucky enough to be able to do that. A lot of other small businesses may not be in that position. Our government cannot continue to ask small business to fund this pandemic. If we continue to not receive support, there's going to be a lot of commercial vacancies in the near future. This will also lead to job losses and residential evictions and vacancies. One opportunity the city of Lakewood has to support its restaurants is to cap the fees charged by delivery companies like Grubhub and DoorDash. These companies typically charge a base commission of 15 to 30% to restaurants. On top of this, there's also various marketing fees to encourage more orders, like free delivery, which costs $4 to $8, or 20% off an order or a free item. It is not unusual for us to pay 40 to 80% in fees for these orders. Another way to look at it is from the consumer perspective. If you order $20 in food from my restaurant from one of these companies, you're going to pay $26. That $6 is a delivery fee and a service fee. So you pay $26, I get $14, and the driver gets $3. And most of this money goes to the city of San Francisco. The city of Denver has already done this, putting us, which we are 2 miles away from the city of Denver, at a competitive disadvantage to other restaurants. I want to ask the city to consider this legislation as well as others to continue to support small businesses. Thank you for your time.
Great, thank you. All right. Anybody else, Madam Clerk?
No one else has their hand up.
Okay. So again, this will be the last call for general public comment. And if you wish to speak, press *9 to raise your hand. And if you don't, or if you do, then I'll ask you to press *6. We'll give it a quick second, and then I will close public comment. Okay. So I want to thank both our callers, and I know we'll continue to monitor the Bear Creek watershed. And I think Council may have received even a corresponding memo after the water update in June. So I think if our caller's still on, and if she wants to reach out to certainly myself or anybody else, paul@lakewood.org, we can try to get you that most up-to-date information, because I do recall something along those lines. Also want to say that Mr. Smith in Economic Development, as well as myself and some of our council members, have spoken with Sean and have asked him for some other kind of ideas that he could help pass on. Robert and their task force is meeting this week to look at some of these ideas, including the one that he mentioned, as far as capping numbers, and they're going to come back to council with that ASAP. So we appreciate that, and certainly want to make sure we encourage all of our folks to shop local as much as possible during these super challenging times going forward. So with that, Ms. Hodson, we have your executive report.
Thank you. Thank you. I have a lot of information this evening, and I'm going to start with an update on the virus, and I'll end with one of the most desirable communities to retire in. So that's how we're going to end. So first of all, as it relates to COVID, you probably know Lakewood is under the level red by the Jefferson County Public Health Order. And I want to talk about what that really means as it relates to some of the operational departments here in the city of Lakewood. In municipal courts, that means jury trials will be paused through January 15th, 2021. And the court will be held virtually through January 4th, 2021. So we'll be on pause, and for jury trials, and court will be held virtually through January 4th, 2021. These were tough decisions to make for the court personnel, but this is all erring on the side of caution and safety and health for our everyone involved. Lots of changes in community resources. First, I'd like to say if you or any of our residents have already registered for a program, you will be contacted directly with the impacts of this new order. As it relates to recreation, the recreation centers are now limited to 10% capacity, or 10 people indoors per room, whichever is less. Reservations are required, and they have been required for some time now. So fortunately, some of our regular users have become accustomed to calling in to make reservations to use whatever part of the recreation center that they're interested in. A reminder that masks are required in any of our recreational centers. The Heritage Lakewood Museum store will be open limited hours for holiday shopping. There are great, really interesting gift opportunities at the store. And we'll still be doing outdoor tours by reservation on the grounds. Those still remain open to the public. All of our park amenities remain open. So go out and check out our parks and check out a brand new park, a new place to explore. Sports leagues and camps have been canceled in accordance with this public health order. That includes sports leagues, pickleball, racquetball, and camps. They're no longer allowed. So if you have any questions, please visit our website with all the latest information on the status of all of these facilities and programs. And also, as you can imagine, the restaurant, both at the Den and at the Homestead Grill and the Den restaurant at Fox Hollow, they're also closed. The indoor dining is closed, and they're allowing outdoor dining for as long as the weather permits. So now let's go to human resources. It's unbelievable for me to express that we now have 70 employees who are currently out. We have 22 positive cases, 22 employees who have tested positive for COVID, and we have 48 additional cases who have been out in quarantine. In other words, they've been exposed, and because of our protocols, as soon as you're considered exposed, you need to go into quarantine. By the end of last week, we had 2 employees who were hospitalized. And as I understand, today we only have 1. So that's good news. 1 was released. That's 70 employees. I think that's really demonstrates the spike that we're seeing statewide. We're having to make some adjustments to all of our municipal buildings. And here's what those look like to stay in accordance with the level 5. The Civic Center will modify its business operations plan to require phone-in calls from the outside door to gain entry and accomplish specific business transactions. This isn't very unusual. At least personally, as I go on different appointments, it's quite often that you have to call first from the window and then they call you back when it's time for your appointment. We're not suspending any functions, but will no longer allow for free movement throughout the complex. Lakewood will limit in-person staffing of non-critical functions to comply with a new 10% limit set by the health order. Most employees now, if we can, we're encouraging employees to work 100% remotely if they can, except for those positions that have customer transaction and computer systems aren't remotely available. Critical government functions like police, streets, fleet, park rangers, etc., will continue to work in person, though supervisors have been directed to maximize the use of alternate roll call type activities to reduce interaction between the employees. At the direction, as I said, at the direction of the presiding judge, the municipal courts have moved to virtual hearings until January 4th. And finally, moving forward, the city leadership continues to remain in almost constant contact with our partners over in the Jeffco Public Health, and we evaluate the situation as guidance evolves and as we move through the holidays. So these are serious changes that we're having to make. The number one goal is to keep our residents and to keep our employees safe. How about some lighter news? We have a new city clerk, and he's a he. His name is Bruce Rome. It looks like it's spelled R-O-O-M-E, so it looks like it's pronounced room, but it's Rome, like this city. Bernie's had a chance to meet him, and I think you give him a thumbs up, right, Bernie? He comes from the city of Arvada. He comes with great references. Very well liked, and Bruce Rome starts December 7th. So when he's in place, I'll make sure to bring him to a council meeting and probably all the council meetings and make sure that you get to meet him. I think you'll like Bruce Rome. We haven't had I can't remember a male city clerk. in our history. Can anyone? I can't. So this is a first. Very good. Very good. Okay. So you'll look forward to, I hope you can look forward to meeting Bruce. A couple of weeks ago, we talked about proposing, or actually it was Councillor Vincent wanted to propose some kind of diversity, appreciating inclusion in our city. And I wanted to let you know that staff has done some research and collected some data as it relates to all of the other cities in the state that are members of our CML delegation. And we'll be working with Councillor Vincent to look at what all the other cities do to see if she wants to fine tune her recommendation to you with a particular or more specific kind of recommendation based on what we learned from other cities. So that's the update there. A big thanks to Ben for putting this information together. And I hope, Councillor Vincent, that we can commit to coming back to the group once we've had a chance to review that list. It sounds good? Okay, thank you. Slash update, I was able to attend a very recent preliminary meeting with the county, with open space, and with the Rooney Road Recycling Center Authority just last week. And they gave us a presentation, gave us some preliminary plans in terms of what the site will look like. And I asked our open space director if he'd be willing to come to our city council meeting and make a presentation, and he said absolutely. We're going to wait until they have more final numbers in terms of what those costs will be, so that it isn't as speculative as it is now. So I'm thinking in the next couple of months, we'll make sure that Tom Hovey, that's the open space executive director, will make sure that he's invited to come to city council and give the presentation, so we'll all have the same information. Sound good? Okay. Oh, yes. Oh my goodness. Zoning concerns. Where did I put that? Oh, here it is. Okay. We have heard very recently, actually over the last couple of weeks, that there's some real concern along Colfax. And that is this, it's actually a real flood of convenience stores and gas stations coming up along Colfax. This has been of special interest to Councillor Johnson and also Councillor Vincent. It looks like right now we have 5 convenience store / gas stations in the development process, 1 under construction, 2 in site plan review, and 2 in pre-planning with no formal application. The zoning on Colfax has allowed gas stations and other auto uses since the city was incorporated. In 2012, the zoning added residential uses, but it didn't remove the convenience or the gas and other auto uses. So because it's in a transit context zone, that requires 2-story buildings and parking behind the building. So gas stations wouldn't be developed in that zone, even though it's not prohibited by its use. So here's the thought. Planning staff is more than willing to put together proposals for zoning changes along Colfax to really be able to fortify the original intent of the zoning there, so that we have more diversity and less of these real specific convenience store / gas stations. The question is this: we've got these 5 in the pipeline. Would you like us to send this conversation like we normally would to the Development Dialogue Committee? Would you like us to do that and have it go through that normal process and then come back to you for first and second reading if indeed the group recommends a rezone? So that's one question. And I guess I need to defer to Mayor Pro Tem Skilling, because I know we have a development dialogue meeting set up. So the question to you is, what's your capacity, Mayor Pro Tem? And is this, when's the next meeting? And is there a capacity to have another topic introduced? Can you give me that information, and then I'll tell you what another option might be if that doesn't work.
Mayor?
Yes, please go ahead.
So I think there's a couple of issues there. Number one is that
Our capacity is fairly full. We have a December 10th meeting where we're finishing off districts, and I've made promises to the committee that we are going to start on some agenda items that we've been wanting to tackle for some time. And I want to get on those. Those include things like ADUs, inclusionary zoning, all sorts of things that have been on the back burner because we've had multiple meetings on this one topic. I think sounds like there's urgency on this. I'm comfortable with, from a committee standpoint, that if staff has a plan, they should bring that back to this full body, and we don't need it to linger in the Development Dialogue Committee. As much as I would normally assert our authority here, I think in this case, we've got a lot of things we're doing on that side that a lot of people on this panel have been working on. I want to continue with that work, but I think we trust staff to have a pulse on what's happening. You've identified Councilors Johnson, Councilor Vincent. I'm sure other councilors have also been in touch on this. So I think you guys bring us something back, and let's just do it through the full council so we can get it done sooner rather than later.
Two things. Yes, it really has been the two sets of counselors from both wards 1 and 2. So I would include Councilors Abel and LeBure. And there is a sense of urgency here, because if we can move this forward, then that'll reduce the amount of these projects that are actually built. Staff is in agreement that this is probably a good way to go. So if it's okay with you, and if we can not engage in the development dialogue, but go ahead and work something up and try to, for lack of a better term, maybe fast track this. It'll still be brought in, there'll still be a hearing, there'll still be a chance for our public to hear these changes, what's being recommended, and to certainly give their opinions. But we'll do that outside of the development dialogue conversation so that we can get it done in haste. Is that, Mayor, can you help with this? Do we have a consensus? Are people comfortable with that?
I see a lot of folks, especially the folks in those wards, giving the
Yeah, I'm watching too. Good.
Councilor LeBear's hand is up though regarding this, and I don't want to get into too much of a conversation right now, but Councilor LeBear.
Yeah, I'm going to try to frame this in a way that doesn't lead to a long conversation, but I guess maybe if we can look at sort of all the options that might be available to us, that would help rein in these that maybe aren't just zoning, because it seems to me that there might be an opportunity to make these like a special use permit or something like that might be a little simpler and require less meetings, like the planning commission and all that. So just a suggestion, we might look at all options. Anyway, thanks.
Thank you. And I would encourage those council members, especially those being affected in this area, if you do have ideas like that, please get those to Ms. Hodson and her team so they can start evaluating if those are things that we can do, and knowing that we want to turn this around pretty fast. Ms.
Yeah,
Hodson.
thank you, Mayor. And now that we got the thumbs up, I'll be working with our planning director right away. Tomorrow we'll get this started. So we'll have information for you. Thank you for that feedback. I appreciate it. And thanks for letting us kind of fast track this. And so finally, what you've all been waiting for, I have an announcement. Is this the last thing? This is an announcement. Did you know that Lakewood has been labeled as one of the top 10 places to retire in America, as awarded by Money Magazine? Top 10. So here's what should I start with 10? I'm going to tell you so number 10 is Santa Fe, New Mexico. Number 9 is Roseville, California. Number 8 is Bridgewater, New Jersey. Number 7 is Asheville, North Carolina. And number 6 is none other than Lakewood, Colorado. And does anyone care what the top 5 are? Okay, I'll tell you. So number 5 is Boise, Idaho. Number 4 is Franklin, Tennessee. Number 3 is Lower Marion, Pennsylvania. Not Upper Marion, Lower Marion, Pennsylvania. Number 2 is Largo, Florida. And number 1 is Madison, Wisconsin. But this is pretty good, that Lakewood is 6th in best place to retire. And we'll make sure the write-up and the scoring, how they came to this decision and why, is on our website, because this is pretty cool. And it was kind of scientific the way they came to selecting Lakewood. So I'm really proud of that, and guess I'm staying for a while. So with that, congratulations, Lakewood, and that concludes my report.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Hodson. Ms. Johnson, your hand is up, and again.
Yes, we'd just like to chime in regarding the Colfax conversation. I did turn in a request for council action maybe a couple of weeks ago now. It sounds like this will complement that and supplement what I turned in. Is that correct, Kathy?
Yeah, I think so. I think this is a quicker way to get it done, but it's to the same end, to the same conclusion.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so next up, I'm going to move forward the emergency declaration. And Councilor Johnson, your hand is up.
I took it down, I thought.
Okay. There you go. All right. So the emergency declaration. So I'll go to Mayor Pro Tem Skilling, please.
Mayor, I move to extend the declaration of disaster in the city of Lakewood, Colorado, resulting from the coronavirus/COVID-19 pandemic, pursuant to section 1.27 of the Lakewood Municipal Code, originally declared by proclamation of the Lakewood City Manager on March 17, 2020, extended by majority vote of the City Council on multiple occasions, and by this motion, extended again until December 14th, 2020, unless earlier extended or terminated by the City Council.
Second.
Okay, motion and a second. Any questions to the extension or comments? I would just say one thing, and I think we got to a point where we thought maybe we were able to look at not continuing this, and as we've all seen, that's just not the case. And the state legislature is being called back, I believe, next week. And again, there might be some emergency funding, as well as we really hope that the federal government can get some dollars back to us to get back out to the community. One unfortunate thing that has not happened is there has not been a will of the federal leadership to take on either furtherance of the stimulus, but one of the key things for us was an extension of spending those dollars. And so we will get all of ours out, but even if there were some new ones that came in, that would have to be a big part of that, is us getting them to extend the days to get those out beyond the first of the year. So with that, anything else to go on this one? Motion and a second, please cast your votes. And that passes 10 ayes and 0 nays. The nay being Councilor Springsteen. Okay, next up is the use of the consent agenda, or the consent agenda. The use of the consent agenda has been made to expedite council action. It contains both resolutions and first reading ordinances. Tonight there is one resolution, so members of the public will have an opportunity in a moment to comment on that proposed resolution. First reading ordinances appear on the agenda only for the purpose of setting future public hearing dates and ordering the newspaper publication of the proposed ordinance. No public comments will be heard this evening on first reading ordinances. The public will have the opportunity to comment on the proposed ordinance during the scheduled public hearings on the dates set tonight by City Council. Any council members may request an item on the consent agenda be removed for separate discussion and action under general business. Nobody has indicated that they want to do that. So I will ask the clerk to please read in this short consent agenda tonight.
Item 6, Resolution 2020-44, declaring the intended use of a parcel of land held by the City of Lakewood to be for open space or public park purposes. Item 7, Ordinance O 2020-28, authorizing a supplemental appropriation to the to the 2020 City of Lakewood annual budget in the amount of $60,000 and authorizing the expenditure of grant funds from the Peace Officers Standard and Training Board on behalf of the Rooney Valley Law Enforcement Training Facility for installation of precast concrete ballistic wall at the training facility. Item 8, Ordinance O 2020-29, declaring the intent of the City of Lakewood to acquire interest in property for public purposes for the construction of a sidewalk along the south side of First Avenue from Garrison Street to Cretin Middle School, and authorizing negotiations with property owners, acceptance of conveyance instruments, and, subject to further City Council approval, condemnation of real property interests. Item 9, Ordinance O 2020-30, declaring the intent of the City of Lakewood to acquire interest in property for public purposes for the construction of a sidewalk along the west side of Independence Street from 6th Avenue Frontage Road to Lakewood High School, and authorizing negotiation with property owners, acceptance of conveyance instruments, and, subject to further City Council approval, condemnation of real property interests. Item 10, Ordinance O 2020-31, declaring the intent of City of Lakewood to acquire interest in property for public purposes for the replacement of traffic signals and intersection improvements along Kipling Street, and authorizing negotiation with property owners, acceptance of conveyance instruments, and, subject to further City Council approval, condemnation of real property interests. Item 11, Ordinance O 2020-32, adopting a revised Chapter 3.01 and Ancillary Municipal Code changes. Item 12, accepting minutes of the boards and commissions. Lakewood Advisory Commission Executive Committee meeting, February 5, 2020. Lakewood Advisory Commission Executive Committee meeting, March 4, 2020. Lakewood Advisory Commission Full Commission meeting, January 15, 2020. Lakewood Advisory Commission Full Commission meeting, February 19, 2020. Lakewood Advisory Commission Full Commission meeting, May 20, 2020.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Nice job. So I will now open the public hearing on the one resolution that is included in this. Is there anybody who wishes to speak to the resolution of the changing of property? Please raise your hand by pressing *6. Okay, seeing none, I'll close public comment on that, and I will ask Mayor Pro Tem for a motion.
I move the acceptance of the minutes of boards and commissions, order all ordinances introduced on first reading to be published in the Denver Post, with public hearings set for the date included in the ordinance, and for the adoption of resolutions, all of which are included in the consent agenda items introduced into the record by the city clerk.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion or questions? All right, seeing none, please cast your votes. And that consent agenda passes 10 ayes, 1 nays. 1 nay, sorry. The nay being Councilor Springsteen. The clerk, please read item 13.
Item 13, Resolution 2020-45, authorizing allocations for 533 Van Gordon Street, Lakewood, Colorado.
All right. This is the one that I had mentioned as to we'll be making a motion, if approved, to postpone until December 14th. Mayor Pro Tem, if you'd please make that motion.
I move to continue Resolution 2020-45 to a date certain of December 14th, 2020.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Okay, seeing none, please cast your votes. Councilor Abel's camera is off, so I'm going to wait a quick second. There he is. All right, please cast your votes. Okay, passes 11 ayes, 0 nays. So now, before I ask the clerk to read in item 14, this is resolution 2020-46. We will have public comment available for this. And then if we get into anything other than comments by council as to the acceptance or not of this, that'll be fine. But if we're going to get into questions, we're going to go into an executive session, as this has to do with attorney-client and the legal issues based upon this settlement agreement. So with that, I'll ask the clerk to please read resolution 2020-46.
Item 14, resolution 2020-46, authorizing approval of settlement agreement relating to two lawsuits over development of the former White Fence Farm property.
All right, I'll now open the public hearing portion of this, and I'll go to public comment. We have received, I think, 4 comments in support via Lakewood Speaks, as well as a letter of support that was presented on behalf of the 2 homeowners organizations that are party to this. And nobody online has their hand up, but I will open public comment there. And if you'd like to speak, please press *6 to raise your hand. Okay, seeing none, I'll close public comment. So council, are there going to be questions pertaining to this? And I think if so, we might go into executive session maybe after we go through the agenda, and then we can come back into the meeting after to finalize this. So I will go to our panelists. I do not see any hands up. So I will ask Mayor Pro Tem for a motion, please.
I move for the adoption of resolution 2020-46.
Second.
Okay, motion and a second. Any comments pertaining to this? Seeing none, I ask that you please cast your votes. And that passes 11 ayes, 0 nays. Will the clerk please read in item 15?
Item 15, resolution 2020-47, amending resolution 2020-8 and granting authority to continue under City Code Section 14.27 for development project at 6263 West Jewel Avenue.
Okay, I will now open the public hearing. If you wish to speak, please press *9 to raise your hand and then *6 to unmute. Give it a quick second. And I do not believe there were any comments on Lakewood Speaks as for this one. Okay, seeing none, I will now ask for a motion, then we'll go to questions and comments. Mayor Pro Tem. Oh, you're muted, sir.
What happens when I try to multitask? All right. I move for the adoption of resolution 2020-47.
Second.
There is a motion, a second. Councilor Abel.
Thank you, Mayor. We're amending the resolution 2020-8 through this process. Is that correct? Well, the concern is that 2020-8 has some language that finds that applications for dwelling units for which applications were made in 2019 prior to Lakewood Municipal Code Chapter 14.27 becoming effective and may proceed without allocations under these provisions. In paragraph 3, the third whereas and the seventh whereas we list 840 units. As a matter of housekeeping and considering the resolution we just passed, that would add 202 more units. So I suggest, as a matter of housekeeping, where 2020.8 refers to 840 dwelling units in each place, that we make that 1,042 by adding the ones we've just authorized.
Thank you, Counselor. And I think there's some other potential language that might need a cleanup, so let's keep that close by for amendment.
Thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem Skilling.
I actually had similar comments along those lines. The proposed in the resolution, the proposed resolution, the language as it pertains to Section 3, we may need to adjust some of that just to be clear on what the intent would be. And it's my understanding from the resolution that we just passed that while this project specifically does not require allocations, the number of permits, in this case, the number of units, would come off the number that is available in subsequent years in the same method that we did for the other authority to continue projects. That, I think, needs to be spelled out a bit more clearly as it pertains to this project. So if it's 202, we just need to reflect that that 202 is going to come off in subsequent years, whether that be 2022 or 2021 or some combination of the two, especially since this council in 2 months or in January at some point will be determining the number of allocations that are going to be available for the coming year. I think that the way that the resolution as it's proposed, that language, I think, gets to the heart of including this project. But I think what we need to make clear in language of that amended resolution is that what we're going to do with the units that are being gobbled up by this. So I think it needs to be clearer that we intend to do what we did with the other projects and reduce by 202, deduct that number from the future year availabilities. Even though that project doesn't need specific allocations, those number of units do need to come down in subsequent years so that we're honoring the 1% of the growth initiative.
So to that point, Councilor Abel and Mayor Pro Tem Skilling, do you want to have a quick conference committee, although we don't have a chance to really recess for that, but is that something you guys want to try to articulate right now to get some verbiage brought forth for a motion? Or Mr. Cox, do you have anything that you would like to add to this conversation?
I have nothing to add at this point. The council, of course, can recess for this sort of purpose. We've done it in the past, but not sure how much time the group thinks we might need.
Yeah, and this one's a little bit different because when we recessed in the past, 2 people could go work together. Here, you'll still be the whole body. Right. Councilor Abel, your hand is up. Maybe you can help get us to where we need to be.
What we have proposed is 2 ways of meeting the same end. Whichever way we go, it does change the number 840 to 1,042. So whichever way we go with it, as long as the end result is the same, I'm okay with it. So if Councilor Skilling would prefer his language to reduce instead of my language to add, it doesn't matter to me. We're going to get there either way if council approves.
Yeah, I think I would defer to actually Mr. Cox. I think we're saying all the same things. We want to make sure that this project corresponds with the same intent of the original 2020-8 resolution that we passed in January, which was any of these projects. Now this is one of those that is part of authority to continue, that even though it doesn't need specific allocations, what it does draw, whether it's the 202, that does draw down availability for subsequent years. That just needs to be made clear in a resolution. I trust that Mr. Cox and his folks can certainly do a better job than we can on the fly. I'm simply identifying that as something that we may need to add in that resolution, just to make clear that this is being treated the same way, if that makes sense. I mean, I think we're all saying the same thing, and I think it would be better if legal had a chance to draft that in accordance with what we're talking about now.
Yeah, certainly a little bit of time to do that would, I think, get us a better end product. I have the basic gist of what you're proposing, but want to make sure we get it right.
So, Councilor Abel, why don't you had your hand up? Why don't you go ahead, and then what we can do is withdraw the motion in the second, give Mr. Cox an opportunity. We could move on to the next ordinance, which is the judge's salary, and come back to this. Is that acceptable?
Well, I think it's very simple. I could offer an amendment to change the number 840 under the third whereas and the number 840 under the seventh whereas to 1042. Plain, simple, and it does the job. If that's legal, Mr. Cox.
It is if you, as you say, if it does the job. So does that comport to what you're saying? I've jotted down what your language, your verbiage was that you proposed. Is it, you think it gets us there to simply change the numbers, or?
No, it's just
whereas clauses are recitals that are part of the law of the document, unless the resolution by its own language incorporates the recitals by reference. So making a change to the recitals might provide information. It wouldn't change anything in the substance of the law, but that may in fact be what you're aiming for, Councilor Abel.
In that case, I'd make it the third recital, change the number 840 to 1042, and under the seventh recital, change the number 840 to 1042. I would make that amendment.
Is there a second on that amendment?
Yeah, I can second it.
Okay. So there's a motion, a second, Mr. Cox, and then I have Ms. Franks, Councilor Franks' hand up.
No, I think we're waiting to see where this goes. If the amendment is sufficient, then we'll make that change after the fact in the paperwork. But it sounded as if there was need for perhaps further refinement.
Okay.
Whatever.
Councilor Franks.
I just had one clarifying question. I haven't been able to find the ordinance online at this point to read that, but is then that those numbers, do they come off equal in 2021 and 2022? Is it I guess, help me understand what we're reducing. So we have 202. Is it reduced in a single year, or is it going to be reduced against 2 years?
Both years.
Okay. Thank you. That's what I wanted to see if it was being spread 101 against 2021 allocations and 101 against 2022 allocations.
That would work, and I might interject that the resolution was in the packet this afternoon.
Thank you. Thank you. Let me take a quick peek. Thanks.
It wasn't previously, I don't think.
Mayor Pro Tem, go ahead.
Yeah, so I think the issue is on the 7th. I've got the original 2020-8 up, and on the original 2020-8, the 7th whereas, talks about decreasing 2020 allocations by 1/3 of the 840 dwelling units noted above. Now, if we stop there, this is where Councilor Abel is talking about raising that up by the 202 dwelling units. And then the sentence continues with further intent to reduce the 2021 and 2022 allocations in a comparable manner. I think that whether you do it that way, if you just raise that, that's fine. You also could just include a section, since we're amending this particular resolution that I just read, you could just say that the Jewel property here, the White Fence Farm, the dwelling units are going to be reduced in the 2021 and 2022 allocations in a comparable manner. I guess it really is what Councilor Abel and I are talking about is literally the same exact outcome. It's how legal, and this is why we'll defer to you, Mr. Cox, how do you think it's best to amend this 2020-8? I mean, that's where this is. We're all saying the same exact thing. You're certainly going to raise the amount of dwelling units by 2002. We are then going to reduce the available allocations in 2021 and 2022 by 2,000 or 202 units.
202, yeah.
I mean, we're going to do the same thing. That's what we're intending to do. So the question is, Mr. Cox, how the best way to approach this? What is the best way to amend 2020-8 with that idea in mind, which is the same thing that Councilor Abel and I are saying?
Well, Councilor Abel's proposal has the gift of brevity. It would take no problem at all to get that put together. When we make amendments to an official enactment like this, I like to see a sort of a paper trail, a little history to explain why we got from 1 to 3 in a sequence of events. And so to that extent, Councilor Springsteen or Mayor Pro Tem Skilling, I'm sorry, you proposed a little bit of explanation that I think together with the numbers might be worthwhile, so that someone looking at this a little bit down the road would have a better understanding of how we got to that change, rather than just the numbers changing. If the numbers have to change, we can do that. But I do think that it would be more clear if we could provide a little bit of explanation in 1 or 2 sentences.
So why don't we go ahead, and we have a motion and a second to change the numbers. So why don't we do that? And then secondarily, we can work on a little bit of language that can be proposed to coincide with that. Would that be acceptable? And then once that is passed, then we could do a just motion to accept as amended. Otherwise, we have to withdraw the number, Councilor Abel's motion. And your hand is up. Is that what you want to do, or?
I will do that if that makes things more efficient. So I'll withdraw my motion and yield to Councilor Skilling or our attorney.
I have to withdraw my second, I think. So withdraw the second.
Okay.
Done.
Okay. So now we have no motion on the floor but the main motion. And so now we're going to have a unique motion that has some numbers and some explanation. And Mr. Cox, feel free if you have something to recommend.
Yeah, I'm just pulling up the resolution. I've got it on my screen, so I want to make sure we find the right place for this.
And again, we can just withdraw the main motion and move to the next ordinance and give you yourself some time. The next ordinance is just judge's salary. Councilor Barb's or Councilor Franks will get us through that. So if that helps, we can do that.
If we could, certainly a couple of minutes to get through the language would be most helpful.
Okay. So Councilor Vincent, Mayor Pro Tem, if you could remove your motions on this.
I remove the second.
And I withdraw the motion for the adoption of the resolution.
Okay. So we will now then go ahead and move into our only second reading ordinance tonight, and I'll ask Madam Clerk to please read that into the record.
Item 16, Ordinance O 2020-27, setting the salaries of municipal court judges.
Okay, I'll now open the public hearing on Ordinance 2020-27. If you wish to speak, please press *9 to raise your hand. All right, nobody has raised their hand, so I'll now close public comment, and I'll turn it over to Councilor Franks, who is the chair of this committee, if you want to give us a summary, and then also if you'd like to make the motion.
Thank you, Mayor Paul. Appreciate that. Well, this is a committee that meets one time of year, so I was elected the chair. I wanted to acknowledge the folks who had helped with this. I wanted to acknowledge Ben Goldstein, who provided staff support and gave us a good framework, good information to go with as far as holding our once-a-year meeting. I wanted to acknowledge Councilor Abel. After we got that information, he requested the 2020 judges' salary survey data, and certainly appreciate him requesting that. And wanted to also acknowledge Judge Stavic, who attended the meeting and, as always, provided a great deal of information and update on what is going on in municipal courts. And finally, thanking Councilors Vincent and Harrison. It was us three who were able to attend the meeting, and I wanted to thank them for all the good questions and the good feedback. And ultimately, we came to a great spot and made the recommendation that you see in front of you. And so I will go ahead and move. Let me scroll back to where I need to be here. I move for the adoption of Ordinance O 2020-27 for approval.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Councilor Johnson, your hand is up.
Thank you. This is a little bit of an awkward conversation. Certainly, I appreciate the work of the committee and the input of the committee and the spirit of where this is going. I would just like to say that in a time of budget issues, and when we are hearing repeatedly small businesses that are closing, people that are losing their jobs, I am concerned about the public message when we actually give 2% salary increases at this particular time. Does that say that that should be totally eliminated in the future? No, I understand that cost of living and that raises are important. But we've got some very serious financial realities that we need to be looking at. And when the only people that are actually getting increases in salary are within the government, let's all understand many of the people in our community that are suffering. And so I'd like to at least just have an understanding that what the perception of this is. Thank you.
Madam Chair Franks, please.
Oh, thank you, Mayor Paul. I certainly wanted to make sure that Councilor Johnson was aware that that absolutely was the part of the discussion. We had that very frank discussion with all of the members. We talked about the historical budgetary setting and what other staff had been given. So I don't want to have the community at all be misled on this. The committee certainly discussed all those points. We discussed what other staff was getting, how that budget process worked for year 2020, and what that budget process would look like for 2021. So this was, in my view, the fair and just outcome to ensure that we treated everybody the same. So I just wanted to add those few points. Thank you.
All right. Any other comments or questions? Thank you, Councilor Franks. All right. Seeing none, we have a motion and a second. Please cast your votes. And that looks like it passes 10 ayes, 1 nay, the nay being Councilor Johnson.
No, there's 2.
Oh, there's 2. Oh, Councilor Beta, I'm sorry, sir. So 9 ayes, 2 nays, the nays being Councilors Beta and Johnson. Okay. Councilor LeBear, your hand was up. Was that related to that motion?
Yeah, I just wanted to comment on that real quick if I can. Just to our community, I certainly understand, and I feel very similar to Councilor Johnson in the way that she expressed herself on that issue. But I just wanted to mention, for me, it was the fact that all our other city staff for the 2019 budget had the same increase. So had I think it been the other way around, I would have voted the opposite way in this case. So I just wanted to clarify that. Thanks.
Thank you. Mr. Cox, just do a check-in.
Mr. Cox, you were muted, then you unmuted, and then you muted. Now you unmuted.
We were unmuting at the same time. Am I muted now?
You're good.
Good. All right. I spoke with the planning director, Mr. Parker, and he made some good points about the cause of simplicity, saying that the intent of, to the extent I wanted the intent of the council reflected in the documentation, he said that's really already existing in the original enactment, and that in January you'll be taking action with regard to the specific numbers. And so in his view, and he's persuaded me, this actually we think can be accomplished with the simple change in the numbers that Councilor Abel has proposed, without the need for any further narrative. And I think if you look at the resolution and the history behind it, I think that's a valid approach. I typically want to say more in terms of a narrative description, but what Travis's point is it's out there, and it's going to be reflected in the action you're obligated to take in January with regard to the allocations. So if everybody agrees on that, we can go back to the motion that was originally proposed by Councilor Abel.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Cox. So I will now ask Madam Clerk, could you please reread into the record item 15, resolution 2020-47?
Item 15, resolution 2020-47, amending resolution 2020-8 and granting authority to continue under City Code section 14.27 for development project at 6263 West Jewel Avenue.
Okay, Mayor Pro Tem, do you want to make a motion?
Well, if I might, Mayor, let me just, before I make the motion, because that might make it more difficult, let me just explain what I was tinkering with a moment ago when I was scribbling on my notepad here. One option could be we make the numbers adjustment that Councilor Abel suggested, so that way it makes sense when you read it. And then we could also add to section 1B of the current resolution, which is purporting to amend section 3 of 2020-8. And we could amend it to add a sentence on the end of what Mr. Cox has already suggested for section 3. And at the end of that say, those 202 units, which brings the total of authority to continue to a total of 1,042, will be deducted from the available 2021 and 2022 allocations in a comparable manner. And that language is exactly consistent with all the whereases and all that other stuff. I took the language directly from that. So that would spell it out. It would increase the numbers like what Charlie's saying, but it would also kind of spell it out a little bit more in the section 3 that's proposed in our resolution 47 tonight.
Okay, Councilor Abel.
So moved.
Second.
That's the easy way out. So moved.
Okay, so.
Well, let me read it in. I'll read it in.
Please.
I just wanted to say that before we did it. If everyone was apocalyptic about that, then we could have addressed it now. I don't think anyone's heads are exploding. So if I read in the first resolution, then we can talk about the amendment. Is that acceptable? I move for the adoption of resolution 2020-47.
Second.
Okay, motion and a second. Please, either Councilor Abel or Mayor Pro Tem Skilling, please make the amended motion. Or
After you, Skilling?
I propose the following amendment, that within resolution, this would be an amendment to the current resolution, that where it purports to amend 2020-8, the numbers in the whereases and any other recitals or sections that refer to 840 units be adjusted to 1,042 units. And furthermore, I would add to the proposed, or to section 1B of the current resolution, amending section 3 of 2020-8 to include a sentence at the end of the proposed paragraph that states, those 202 units, which brings the total of authority to continue to a total of 1,042, will be deducted from the available 2021 and 2022 allocations in a comparable manner.
Second.
Okay, well done. Thank you. We have a motion and a second on the amendment. Is there any questions or discussion? All right, seeing none, Councilor or Mayor Pro Tem, will you now make a motion to accept the amended resolution, or accept the resolution as amended? Oh, no, we need a vote. Motion and second on the amendment, forgive me. Please cast your votes. So just the amendment. All right, 11 ayes, 0 nays. Now, please, if you'll restate the resolution as amended.
I move for the adoption of resolution 2020-47 as amended.
Second.
Great. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion or questions related to the main motion on the floor? All right, seeing none, please cast your votes. And that passes 11 ayes, 0 nays. Thank you very, very much, council and councilors, as well as community and property owners and all those who have been involved in this challenging situation. I think tonight we moved quite a bit in trying to bring the community back together and move forward. So thank you all, certainly to Ms. Hodson and her team as well, who were a big part of this, trying to move this along. Much appreciated. All right, general business. I have 2 quick things. One is just want to check, and we don't particularly need to hash this out tonight, but if you want to send me an email as we look towards the retreat, and yes, most likely it's going to be virtual. And I heard loud and clear that you don't want to have multiple meetings, just one is all that you would like to have. Would you be also open to trying to do it during the week, and to pick a weekday that we could start a little bit earlier, certainly than 7? And I know that might be tough, but We're close on a weekend, but it's still challenging for some folks. So if you just want to reach out and let me know if a weekday is possible and which day of the week would work for you, please let me know. Okay, and then the second one that I have is just going back. We really have the voice of advocacy on our side, and it's really important that your elected officials hear from you. Our congressmen and both of our senators need to hear and really understand we are in a critical time and situation. And you heard in the voice of one of our business owners tonight, and he's just one of thousands that are affected right now with really no recourse, as we are not a stimulus type of government. We can't print money. And so please take that to heart. If you can, reach out. If you think of stuff that we can, I'm trying to sign on to letters to the governor and to our delegation. You've seen some of those, but if you do have relationships, please reach out and try to encourage them to do something moving forward. That's all that I have for general business. Anybody else have anything under general business? Okay, we will go with reports. And I'm going to start with Ward 3 today and go 3, 4, 5, 1, 2. Ward 3.
Thank you, Mayor. A couple of quick points. One, we are not going to have our Ward 3 virtual town hall that it's normally scheduled for this Saturday due to the close proximity to the holiday, to Thanksgiving. So that has been canceled. Secondly, I'd like to just thank all of the parties, and that includes our staff, our constituents at Ward 3, the developer, the property owner, everybody involved in that recent settlement that we just approved. I know it's been difficult. All the parties have put a lot of time and effort into this settlement, and you know, in the legal community, we have a saying that there's a good settlement, or a poor settlement's always better than a good lawsuit. This is a good settlement in lieu of a good lawsuit, so I think it's a winner. I know that there's been a lot of compromise on all sides, and I appreciate that. I do want to say that I am a little concerned of that had to go this far, and it really concerns me that our citizens have to file a suit against their city in order to get relief on something like this. And they had to hire counsel, and they spent an awful lot of money to get to this point. And that is of concern to me. And I'd like to see us maybe take a look at some point as how did we get here and what can we do to avoid that in the future, for citizens in the future when there is a land use dispute like this. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Springsteen.
Yeah, I would just like to reiterate, I've spoken with some of the folks today who were involved with the White Fence Farm issue, and I do think it's really sad the time and the money, extensive time and money that they had to go through just to get the right thing done. And so we really, really need to work hard as a city to not allow this to happen to our citizens. It's a travesty. I just wanted to report that I've set up a stakeholders meeting between Grassroots Law Project and Representative Herod regarding the issue of ketamine and forced injection of citizens who have police encounters. It's set for December 1st and includes many distinguished doctors and activists who have been horrified by the death of Elijah McClain. We hope to solve the problem through legislation where state agencies have not provided accountability. And to that end, since I haven't had a chance to respond to some of the mayor's statements from our last meeting, I just wanted to respond about my efforts to stop the use of forced injection of ketamine, which is disproportionately used on people of color. No doubt about that. This came up at the last meeting, and he said I was being misleading or making statements not based in fact. And I just want to say that that's not true. I realize that our first responders have very difficult jobs, especially right now in these trying times. I realize we need them. I know we're all very thankful for them. I am. But I am saying that there are problems that need to be addressed. And one of those is in Lakewood. Lakewood police may not actually inject people with ketamine, but they certainly have undue influence in situations where it's used. And West Metro Fire may not have killed anyone yet with the use of forced injection, as far as we know, but they certainly have come close. And in fact, I know of a situation where there was a close call in the past few weeks. Ketamine leads to complications in almost 20% of uses. It's been used on average every day and a half in our part of the city. And according to the doctor who came up with the idea of excited delirium, it should not be used more than one time a year every 250,000 people. And so I'm just where I'm coming from, and I know that people have expressed displeasure that I bring this up every week, but until I get somewhere with this and somebody's willing to talk to me about it, I have to, because I don't want to see another death like Elijah McClain. And I can't really comprehend why I'm being villainized for wanting to save lives in that regard. A lot of people are still there was just a protest again on Saturday about Elijah McClain. People are horrified. And I want us to be responsible as a council and recognize that this is a life and death issue. And that is why I bring it up. And I call on you to understand that. So thank you all.
All right, Ward 4. Nothing. Ward 5.
Wait, hang on. There's two of us in Ward 4. Barb, I know, is the better counselor. Nobody will disagree with that. She's definitely number one. I just wanted to say Development Dialogue Committee is meeting on December 10th, and that will be our, we're hoping to have our third meeting on districts and recommend some possible legislative actions to this body relating to districts, and that is December 10th, 6 to 8 p.m. That is all.
Thank you. Ward 5.
Just a quick note, we will have our virtual Ward 5 meeting on December 5th. We won't have another meeting between now and then, so that's why we're wanting to remind everybody. It's going to be an interactive meeting where we're going to have kind of two topics. Number one, we want to talk about what charities people support and talk about how they support them and maybe learn about some new ones. And then we also are going to be asking about priorities. We're going to go over our priorities previously discussed and talk with people about if they feel like they're still as important as they were a year ago. So that's what we're going to be doing. A reminder will be going out next week. Thank you.
Councilor, okay. Ward 1, Councilors Abel and Johnson.
Thank you, Mayor. A couple of things. The Planning Commission has completed or is near completion of the Union Corridor Improvement Plan, the vision plan for the area. But there They were told that council doesn't have an opportunity to discuss the plan in study session with the commission, and I'd like to see if we can move that along, find some time, because that Union Corridor Vision Plan is very important to Ward 1. And we have folks working on the 2040 plan for the corridor, Colfax corridor, which is important to Wards 1 and 2. And I'm hoping that when they get their vision put together, we can entertain the consideration of that as soon as possible as well. The other thing kind of crosses over wards. I agree with Councilors Beta and Springsteen that we need to do a post-mortem on the White Fence Farm case. I think Judge McNulty's decision is very instructive and presents a unique starting point for the discussion. So I would encourage that be enlisted as soon as possible as well. Thank you.
Thank you. I am chair of the Legislative Committee, and we'll be meeting December 4th with the Colorado Municipal League, looking at potential legislation coming up. The city is trying to stay on top of what could possibly be put out there. I would also like to echo Councilman Beta and Springsteen and Abel regarding the way that White Fence Farm, the whole process there, the amount of money that was spent by citizens and the amount of time is of great concern. And we need to take a look at this so that this kind of thing does not happen again. Ward 1 will have our ward meeting on December the 5th. Aaron Nordman from the Economic or Budget Department will be coming and talking about the budget. I'm only telling you that now because next Monday we do not have a council meeting. So wanted to get that out there. And also I would just like to mention that recently my husband and I did test positive for COVID. I think many of you know that. And it is certainly a virus to take seriously. The masks, the social distancing, the washing of your hands. At this point, I'm so sorry I didn't have the insight to buy stocks and bonds in hand lotion companies because with all the hand washing we're doing. But there's also positive news in that there are mild cases. And I am unbelievably grateful this year at Thanksgiving that Walt and I did have mild cases. You can recover from this. And I told Walt, I said, because you and I both have had COVID, we now can release 2 doses of vaccine for somebody else, basically. And I guess in closing, I would just like to say this is an unusual Thanksgiving for all of us. But as I look in my world and in my life and the people that I know and that I work with, my amount of gratitude, frankly, for what I have is enormous. And even though all of us are stretched to the end, there's a great deal for us to really look and see how lucky we are. And happy Thanksgiving to all of you, however you celebrate it. Walt and I will be alone this year, as I think most people are. And just grateful that I have him, my best buddy. Thank you.
Thank you. Ward 2?
I guess it's interesting. I thought that we were rated number 6 for top 10 retirement places. There was, it came to my house, but not to me, the AARP like newspaper. And in the back of there was an article about the 40 West grant that they got from AARP, which I think was the largest one in the nation. And there was also kind of an interview or back and forth with our own Alexis Moore. So I thought that was really nice. She did it. She always does a lovely job, but she did a nice job on that too. And we were recognized nationally. So Lakewood was. The other thing, just on a high level, December 8th is Colorado Gives Day. But I have gotten many things already in my inbox that allow you to go ahead and pre-register to donate your money. So I just advocate that, if you guys have a favorite charity, to go ahead and do that, sign up. And we will not be having a December Ward 2 meeting. And that's all I have.
Thank you.
Yeah, I just want to make a couple of comments. I wanted to first just thank everybody who came to our last ward meeting. We had a great ward meeting, good turnout. We're not having one in December, as Councilor Vincent said, but we plan on having a robust one in the new year in January. So I hope you all enjoy the holidays. Also, just want to thank, I think it's great hearing what WCCA is doing and Two Creeks and all the neighborhood associations that have been involved with the new vision plan for Colfax. I hope to support it and try to design and build legislation around the concept in the future. And I sent them an email sort of reiterating that commitment earlier today. So hopefully we'll see more from that. And just want to thank everybody who's involved. And I want to thank citizens who are emailing us suggestions and ideas regarding, how to assist their businesses and things like that. Because, I think a lot of people who reach out to us think that maybe we've heard of these ideas or that we are already doing certain things. And in some cases we are, but a lot of times, we get ideas from people reaching out, expressing their concerns and their issues. So just wanted to thank everybody who does email us. It's very informative, even though sometimes I take a week to email you back. Thanks.
All right, so a couple things. One of the toughest things we deal with is land use, and you certainly never want to be in a situation where you are. And certainly there's neighbors and there's also landowners, right? There's a person whose family bought that restaurant and wanted to continue it on and do wonderful things as that tradition was, and unfortunately that model didn't work. And so it's never easy, and just want to again echo my thanks to all involved who worked hard and did come to the table to try to make some meaningful change. And you try all that you can to not go to court, and inevitably sometimes you do. And I can tell you in my tenure, it's very few and far between. So I'm grateful for that. I think one thing is we certainly always want to support council's passions, and people are leaders in different ways. And I don't think anybody has not supported any of the issues that council is working on. I will say I did and had to clarify after the last meeting when a comment was made that our police and our fire department continue to kill people. And so that is why I engaged to clarify that is not happening with the Lakewood Police Department or West Metro Fire. And I also encouraged council and the community to reach out to West Metro. They've been wonderful to take the time to reach, to talk to council members, to share their policies, to talk about what goes on, and to talk about other things that they used to use prior to ketamine, for instance, or the different things along those lines. So there's a lot more to it in that regard, to take the time if you're really interested and to engage. I have a terrible story to share that aired last night on 9 News regarding Lakewood's Fox Hollow Golf Course and the birds that continue to terrorize people's burritos in their carts. It looks like it was a story they actually shot pre-pandemic, but it aired last night and it was pretty funny. And if you've ever been at Fox Hollow and you've come back to your cart and there's either been your burrito taken or maybe a little bird surprise left on your seat, that was what the story was about. So it brought a little bit of humor, and certainly it was a real positive light that shined on some of the employees out there at Fox Hollow who have a good time with trying to deal with that. So check it out. It was on 9 News last night. Then I would just leave you with with the gratitude of what this week is, and challenging week, challenging year for so many. Thanksgiving was born out of challenging times and when people came together to give thanks after getting through. And we're going to get through this and continue to work together to make sure. And the road is not going to be easy. The road ahead, I'm not optimistic that it's going to be amazing, but we'll get through it. And I'm proud of this council. And to a question raised earlier, you know, there's a lot of issues that we've really put on the back burner. And that's one of the things that I think we need to get going with the retreat sooner than later, to really look at what we need to start getting back on our agendas, because there's a lot of stuff sitting there, whether it's the Colfax or the Union Corridor Plan. There was some issues at CCU, all the way down to, I think, 10 recommendations now from the LAC. So a lot of stuff going on, and hopefully we can get that normalcy back moving forward. But I wish you and your families a wonderful Thanksgiving. I'm certainly thankful for this community. Ms. Hodson, do you have anything else? All right, Mr. Cox, anything from the city attorney? Madam Clerk? Okay, well, great job, everyone. We will adjourn the meeting at 8:35 p.m. Have a nice Thanksgiving.